Welcome to 6 Feet in the Six. I'm your host, Jeff Barrett with Business Interiors. Thank you for joining us today. The purpose of this interview series is for the close-knit Toronto commercial real estate industry to share ideas and best practices in order to help everyone get back to the office safely and efficiently. We'll be interviewing leaders from commercial real estate, project management, interior design, commercial end users, and product manufacturers. Joining us today is Renaud, Principal and Executive Vice President of Devencore. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Jeff.
Can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I've been in this business for about 24 years. I started in 1996, and I came from a small town, went to Queen's University for 4 years, and graduated with a Bachelor of Commerce. I didn't know much about commercial real estate, office leasing, but it's been a great career for me. I spent about 7 years downtown Toronto making cold calls, trying to get to know the world of people in Toronto that were wearing pinstripe suits, and had some good traction in an early stage of my career. But it was a delicate balance between working with downtown corporations as occupiers, as well as suburban. And my focus and the focus of our firm at Devencore is occupier work. I spent about a couple of years in London, England, and came back. And ever since then, in 2004, have built a practice where I work for major companies in Canada to support them with their real estate decisions anywhere around the world. And that's really the focus that my team has had, and we're really happy with the results that we've had doing so.
That's great. How was your time in the UK, and how did that add value to your career back in Canada?
Well, like you've heard the expression street brokers, and the difference between a person who would just focus on a local market and be looking at a tenant and cold calling them, and that of a relationship-oriented broker, which is someone who can support a client locally and everywhere else where they have needs, is that you become much more attached to the hip of the client. So having that exposure and actually being there, pounding the pavement, working within Europe, Middle East, Africa, and my remit actually extended to Asia too, has given me a lens that most people haven't had in this industry, and allows me to perform and to actually advise them in those markets. We have major customers here in Toronto that we support in Germany, because I've been in Germany, because I know, the ins and outs of German real estate law. It's one thing to say that you can support a client and to refer somebody, but it's another thing to say you can advise them. And that's the difference that I feel, the edge that I developed in supporting those clients. So I love what I do. I'd say 70% of my business is local, but I have that added, benefit to a client where I can be their partner and ride shotgun with them anywhere around the world.
So personally, how are you managing?
I got some sore glutes. I've been sitting a lot. I mean, thankfully, I've got a Herman Miller Aeron chair. So I know you guys like that product. That's the one benefit. I've got a great standing desk. But overall, I wouldn't say that things have changed much for me. My kids are being homeschooled. My wife has been really a wonderful support to me. And she also has a business that she is running right now. But I would say that overall, I'm doing fine, because my business was always very fluid and very nimble, I would say, where I spent a bunch of time at home when I needed to. And when I needed to actually interact with people and collaborate, I would. And so from my point of view, not much has changed, except for the fact that now it's 100% at home.
Is there one thing that you've had to do while under quarantine that you haven't had to do before?
Well, my hair is a little shorter than usual. I've never cut my hair before. My wife, she said she'd do a good job. She just kind of like nicked it with like the razor and didn't know what she was doing. I don't mind that. I had to cut my kids' hair. My one kid has a bowl cut. I didn't plan it being that way, but he wanted me to stop because it wasn't going his way. So I would say that that'd be the one thing from a personal point of view. From a business point of view, I think longer days and the days bleeding into the night. And that's the one common theme I found with both my business and also that of clients I've been working with. Clients have said, and I found this too, that every single slot in your day gets filled up because you're not going anywhere. And if people know you're available and you have time in your calendar, they'll grab it. So from my point of view, I felt that it's made for more meetings jammed together And then, the time during the day that you would have otherwise spent getting work done, that you would normally be performing, you have to get it done at night because people want to talk during the day over Zoom.
So one segment we'd like to do is called Show Me What Face Mask You've Been Rocking. So I'm not sure how often you've had to venture out of the house to go get groceries or whatever have you, but what are you wearing these days?
Well, I've had different machinations of face masks. One of them has been just putting my nose underneath my shirt when I've forgotten the face mask. Tomorrow I'm about to go pick up some face shields, the full face shields from a client who manufactures them. So that'll be cool. But my wife I'm not even sure how this really works, but she got these from my aunt. It's got like an accordion style. It looks like it's blue and gray, but it's an accordion style kind of material. And I don't know, it matches my eyes. So I think it looks good on me, What do you think, Jeff?
You're killing it right now. Yeah. Homemade.
I don't know if they actually work, but I figured it makes my eyes look good.
Well, and just people may give you dirty looks if you don't have them soon too, right?
Right. True enough.
So what I've been doing on each one of these episodes is showcasing a face mask that my girlfriend's mother has made. She has been working her tail off, making sure all of her loved ones are safe. So she's followed the same model, but used different textiles. So I'm going to show you the plaid one today. I have a funny feeling this one might be designed for my girlfriend, who is much smaller than I am. But it's sleek and stylish nonetheless. It's got a little wire up here so you can pierce it down. And what do you think?
Awesome. Love it.
Can you tell us a little bit about your business and how it's been affected by COVID-19?
Yeah, I would say that, clients have generally those that have capitalized balance sheets and are companies that are maybe global in nature, banks or companies that have a long-term business plan and who, I wouldn't say it's an essential service, but they're services that require our clients to always be performing. Those businesses have not been impacted. And in fact, we're making long-term plans as we speak on some fairly major office moves and new long-term commitments, 10 and 15-year leases in some of these cases, ranging anywhere from 30,000 to 100,000 to 200,000 square feet of office space. So those organizations that are, as I say, more of an essential service or that have a long-term view of the world, notwithstanding that they may be looking at some maybe changes to how they lay out their space, which we can talk about in a little bit. I'd say that it's been fine. Those that are not an essential service or those that are impacted by consumer spending have certainly been impacted in a major way. And I've got 2 or 3 projects that were literally on the goal line of getting done that got canceled at the 11th hour. So one was in the travel business, another was a retailer, as an example.
So what are some of the different types of requests you've gotten from your clients over the past couple months?
Well, not surprisingly, one of the requests that we get as commercial lease advisors, predominantly focused on office space, is rent relief or rent deferral or rent forgiveness. The reality is that some businesses, be it those that are sophisticated with executives who have worked in global companies, or entrepreneurial businesses with that are owner operated and managed, entrepreneurs. I would say that the requests have been similar, except the lens through which they look is a bit different. The big companies, they understand that they've got to live by the contract that they've signed, and they're trying to find a way to be pragmatic to preserve cash so they can then fund their operations going forward in a way that is sustainable and keeps their, P&L, their profit and loss statement in good shape. So the conversations with them on rent issues have been more about, what can we do to be pragmatic here? I've had calls with clients who are these entrepreneurs or owner managed businesses, and they've been different, which is we can't afford to pay the rent. We're not going to pay the rent, or we choose not to. And I need to remind them that if they don't pay it, if they don't have the mechanism or choose not to, then they will be in default, and that puts them at great risk. And I've had to provide some sage counsel to those clients to figure out a way to navigate those waters to appease the landlords, while at the same time trying to satisfy the cash crunch that some of these businesses are facing.
And how are the landlords these days to deal with?
Landlords are generally fine. I think that the amount of office lease transactions has dried up. The growth, the commitments, what they look like, the shape of those leases. I'd say the mood is fine for the bigger institutions, the more mid-market players. The feedback I've gotten is they're kind of sitting on their hands, and really, I just actually had a call before this interview today from a landlord who said, "How are you doing, Rob?" And I said, "The business has actually never been better," which is true, despite all this. And I feel horrible saying that, because for me, I've got a phenomenal number of projects on the go with clients who are looking to solve problems. And he said, "That's really great to hear. The business is good. I'm looking forward to finishing this one project with you, this lease extension." He said, "It'd be great news because I spent a good chunk of the last month just dealing with rent relief requests. So thank you for getting back to me with this good news."
It's pretty rare for someone to stay at a company as long as you have. So your relationships are probably well established and diversified in terms of their market segment too.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's been an interesting 6 to 8 weeks, and we have a lot of initiatives on the go that I think we're going to come out of this better than ever, to be honest, as a firm. I believe that we're going to come out of this with new tools in our toolkit and new ways of supporting clients that we perhaps thought about but didn't put into practice before. And as you know, that involves your business, Business Interiors. It's wonderful to have a partnership with you where we can support clients with a resource who really is a lateral thinker and who can help clients understand some of the problems that can ensue by just thinking in a bubble.
Well, thank you. I think it's unfortunate. There's probably some companies out there trying to do this alone, and they have plenty of people that can help, and they may not think about a furniture company or the real estate person to help navigate these waters. But it's exactly what we do. This is if we can't help someone get a new deal, then we help them with the deal that they have, and it's beneficial for us as well, because if we help them out during this time, then they'll probably come back to us when they need help again. So can you tell us about some of the projects that you're involved in at the moment and how they've changed course over the past month?
For me, it's interesting. A large project I have is a 100,000 square foot client who's done test fitting of 3 office buildings downtown. One is a renovated option, one is a brand new development, and one is an existing space. And this is about 80 to 100,000 square feet of office space. And they have us, and they have their design firm, and they have their furniture vendor. What's come out of this is that they believe that they will need the same, if not slightly more space, only by virtue of the fact that with some of the things that are happening in the social distancing of workspace, even if they had some of their people working from home, they believe that they would net be about the same amount of space at the end of the day. Now, there's a chance that they might not, and we're building in flexibility into their lease commitment in our negotiation to allow them to give back some space, if in fact they so choose to get rid of some space and have more people working remotely. We've got one client and I think because we talked to them last week in the West Coast, who has said that they are going from 78 square feet a person to 300 to 350 square feet a person. So from my point of view, I guess I asked the question, does that mean they're going to be leasing 4 more times the space than they had before? Or are they going to be having people in shifts? How are they going to work? I don't think it's been figured out yet, but I do believe that ultimately all this talk about there being a major downsizing and people just staying at home, until people actually have support and programs and resources to allow them to be at home, including properly kitted out offices with ergonomic furniture and all that stuff, and a support from people that can keep their mental health in check. I really think that it's far-fetched to say there's going to be a massive give back of space in the economy.
So now that we've talked about pre-vaccine, what do you think some of the changes that are going to take place in the office post-vaccine, if any?
Post-vaccine, I would say it's very hard to tell what that will look like. Are we going to have a situation where people are racing to make changes only to then unwind them to go back to the way things were before we had COVID-19? I don't think it's likely. I think that whatever changes are being made right now are going to be put in place with a view of a risk management plan. Sophisticated businesses won't just look at pandemic plans. They'll look at all kinds of plans. It's unfortunate what happened with 9/11. It's unfortunate what happened with other things like earthquakes in Vancouver. There's got tsunamis. You've got all kinds of weather pattern changes. You've got potentially other pandemics coming. But the risk management plan of allowing companies to operate differently and also to give their people the ability, in some respects, COVID-19 and the social distancing has given people an opportunity to think about how they lay out their spaces, which gives more workspace to people to be able to be productive.
So Rob, on each episode, we review a product. It could be a new product or an old product that has had a resurgence due to COVID-19, but something that a lot of organizations are considering nonetheless. So today we're going to talk about using sensors for the slow reentry into the office. As you know, we've had a partnership with Relogics for some years now, and it's a company I talk about a lot because we use their sensors for space utilization studies. It turns out during the past couple of years, Relogics has been pivoting to marry up with room reservation systems to allow their sensors to identify where people are in the office and if they're actually sitting at the desk that they reserved previous that day. Since COVID-19, they've been able to alter their software to be able to help employees physically distance themselves in the office. So for those organizations that have to go back to the office, what they're going to try and space them out while they're sitting there. And so the Relogic software will physically distance people at different workstations throughout the office, but as well, when that workstation is done being used, it becomes unreservable and sends a message directly to the maintenance company to come and clean that desk. So now it's allowing people to physically distance using technology, and as well, it makes more targeted cleaning efforts versus your janitorial or maintenance company having to clean the entire office every single evening, which will be cost prohibitive. So what do you think of a service like this?
I think it's a great software. I think it's a great service. I've seen their presentation, and ultimately what I like about it is the fact that it's fixed to their desk as an employee versus it being on someone's chair, because if the chair moves away or they're standing, you don't really know whether the sensor is going to work. I think it's a great resource. Personally, it's one more aspect of building technologies that I'm looking at, or I should say that landlords and building investors are looking at to facilitate the reentry of corporations and tenants. So I think they've come up with an innovative tool that is allowing companies to be more informed and for employees to come to the office more prepared, knowing where they should be and where it's safe to be. And I like that. So from my point of view, kudos to you for partnering with them and making it part of the offering that you have for clients, because I don't see any other furniture advisor like Business Interiors doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we're very fortunate that we were already connected to Relogics prior to this, because their sensors just make a lot of sense. Out of all the solutions that I've heard out there, there seems the most practical. And it's something, maybe the small company may not be able to afford, but there's going to be a person at every one of these organizations that's going to have to start tracking these things. There's going to be a person that is making sure things are getting cleaned. The office manager, the facilities manager, whoever that person may be. It's going to be a really daunting task for that person. And depending on the size of the organization, might not be able to be done manually. So depending on the ask of that person, this technology could complement what they're doing and make their lives a lot easier and more efficient as well. Because if you have someone manually telling people where to sit every morning as they're coming to the office and making sure those desks are reported to maintenance and all the things that we're going to have to do to get back to the office in the short term, using data to help you make those decisions will just make everyone's life easier. Rob, thank you for joining us today and sharing how Devencore is joining against the fight against COVID-19. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Jeff. Pleasure to be here.
This is Jeff Barrett. Thanks again for joining us. Toronto, you're the best city in the world, and we can't wait for you to feel better again.
By the way, I wanted to show you all my great books on my thought leadership. I put these here today so that you can see that I'm a trusted advisor and I've got some great ideas to share with my clients. You should have seen the workspace before we did the interview. There's lots of stuff going on back there that no one wanted to see.
Oh, told you I'm moving. Look at this.
Yeah.